Ladies and gentlemen, there is a weight that many carry, a quiet, heavy thing that whispers in the back of the mind, reminding them of time lost, of choices that led nowhere, of days they wish they could rewrite. It is the burden of wasted years. We have all at some point looked back on our lives and felt the weight of lost time. It is a silent ache, a quiet regret that lingers in the corners of our minds, the feeling that opportunities have slipped through our fingers, that we have taken too many wrong turns, or that we have wasted years chasing things that ultimately led nowhere. Perhaps you once had dreams that now feel like distant echoes. You had ambitions, passions, and aspirations, but life happened. Responsibilities grew heavier, distractions multiplied, and slowly, without realizing it, you found yourself standing in a place far from where you once imagined you would be. And now, when you look back, all you see are years you believe were wasted, time you think you can never get back. The burden of regret is heavy. It creeps in during moments of silence, whispering questions in your ear. What if I had made different choices? What if I had been wiser, more disciplined, more courageous? What if I had not allowed fear to hold me back? These questions haunt many people, convincing them that their best days are behind them, that the damage is irreparable, and that nothing can be done to change the past. But what if I told you that no time is ever truly wasted, that even the moments you consider lost have a purpose greater than you can see? You see, time does not operate the way we think it does. We measure it in days, weeks, and years. We count the milestones and the missed opportunities. But the truth is, time is not just something we pass through. It is something God holds in His hands. Have you ever considered that the very years you call wasted were the years that shaped you the most? Think about it. In those seasons of wandering, struggling, and even failing, you learned things that success could never teach you. You gained wisdom, patience, and resilience. You discovered the depth of your own strength, even if it did not feel like strength at the time. You saw what does not work, and in doing so, you became better prepared for what does. Look at history. Some of the most extraordinary figures faced long years of struggle and seeming stagnation before stepping into their true purpose. Joseph in the Bible spent years as a slave and then a prisoner before stepping into the leadership role God had planned for him. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading his people to freedom. Even in modern history, countless individuals only found their greatest purpose after experiencing seasons they once believed were wasted. What if the years you regret were not wasted, but rather years of planting? A farmer does not look at a field in winter and despair. He does not say, "The land is wasted, nothing is growing." No, he understands that beneath the surface something is happening. The soil is resting, being prepared for the next season of growth. And when the time is right, life will emerge again, stronger and more abundant than before. The same is true for you. What looks like lost time is often preparation. The mistakes you made were lessons. The delays you faced were redirections. The waiting was not empty, it was shaping you for what is to come. And here is the most beautiful part. God is not only able to restore what you lost, but He can also accelerate your progress beyond what you thought was possible. Think of a river that has been blocked for years, collecting water behind it. The moment the blockage is removed, the water does not trickle out. It rushes forward with force, making up for the time it was held back. Your life can be the same. When God restores your wasted years, He does not merely return what was lost, He multiplies it. But here is the key. You must believe that restoration is possible. If you continue to carry the mindset that your best days are behind you, you will live as though they are. But if you choose to believe that what was lost can be restored, even improved, you will position yourself to receive the very thing you thought was gone forever. You have not missed your chance. You are not too late. No matter how much time you think you have lost, the story is not over. You are standing at the edge of a new season, and what comes next is not dictated by your past. It is shaped by what you choose to believe today. So I ask you, will you let go of regret? Will you silence the voice that tells you it is too late? Will you dare to believe that the years ahead can be greater than the years behind? Because if you do, you will see that the weight of lost time is not yours to carry. Restoration is not just a possibility, it is a promise. And when the time is right, you will see that nothing was truly lost. Everything was simply waiting for its moment to flourish. Restoration is a concept far greater than simply reclaiming what was lost. It is a transformation, a renewal, a divine multiplication of what once seemed gone forever. When we think of restoration in human terms, we often envision merely getting back to where we once were, as if time could be rewound and our past mistakes erased. But God's restoration is different. It does not just return things to their former state, it elevates them to something even greater than before. Consider the nature of a broken vessel. When we, with our limited understanding, seek to fix something, we may glue it back together, hoping it resembles its original form. Yet no matter how carefully we mend it, the cracks remain, the scars visible. However, when placed in the hands of a master artisan, that same broken vessel is not just repaired, it is recreated. The pieces are molded, refined, and reassembled into something far more beautiful than its original form. The Japanese art of kintsugi, for example, takes broken pottery and fills its cracks with gold, making the imperfections part of its beauty. This is a reflection of divine restoration. God does not merely patch up the past, He makes it better, stronger, more glorious than it ever was. Many people struggle with the idea that they can be restored. They believe too much time has passed, too many mistakes have been made, and too many opportunities have been lost. They look at their lives and see ruins, desolate places where once there was hope. But if history and scripture teach us anything, it is that God specializes in breathing life into dry bones, in rebuilding what seemed beyond repair. Think of Job, a man who lost everything, his family, his wealth, his health. In the eyes of the world, his story was over. And yet, when God restored him, it was not just a matter of replacing what was taken. Job received twice as much as he had before. What seemed like the end was merely the beginning of a greater chapter. Or consider the story of Joseph, betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and imprisoned for a crime he did not commit. For years it seemed his life had been stolen from him, that his dreams had been shattered. But God had a plan for restoration that Joseph could not see. In one divine moment he was elevated from the darkness of a prison to the highest position in the land, second only to Pharaoh. Not only was his life restored, but he was placed in a position to save an entire nation. His suffering had not been in vain. It was preparation for something greater. In our own lives, we may feel as though we are wandering in the wilderness, lost in a season of delay or despair. We may feel as though we have wasted years chasing after things that led nowhere, or suffering through hardships that seemed meaningless. But just because we cannot yet see the restoration does not mean it is not coming. The key to understanding divine restoration is realizing that it is not bound by human logic. It does not operate on our timelines or follow our expectations. It is often unexpected, arriving in ways we never anticipated. Sometimes what is restored is not the thing we lost, but something far greater. A person who loses a job may find a calling. A relationship that ends may lead to personal growth and a deeper, truer love in the future. A failure that seemed devastating may be the very thing that pushes someone toward their true purpose. We must also recognize that restoration requires our participation. Faith is not passive. When God promised to restore the land of Israel, He did not simply. The years we consider wasted are often years of learning, preparing us for something bigger than we imagined. It is difficult to see this when we are in the midst of hardship, but time spent in struggle is never truly lost. It is in those moments of seeming failure, in the quiet seasons where nothing seems to be happening, that the greatest transformations take place. Growth is not always visible, and progress is not always immediate, but beneath the surface, something is always happening. Consider the story of a seed. When it is planted in the ground, it appears to vanish. It sits in the dark, buried beneath the soil, unseen by the world. Days, weeks, sometimes even months pass with no sign of change. If someone were to look at that patch of earth, they might assume nothing is happening. They might believe the seed was wasted, but deep within, the seed is breaking, changing, preparing to become what it was meant to be. The roots grow first, stretching downward, searching for strength, for stability. Only when the foundation is strong does the seed finally break through the surface, revealing the life that was forming all along. And so it is with the seasons of our lives that feel empty, unproductive, or lost. We see time slipping through our fingers, but we fail to recognize the work happening beneath the surface. We believe nothing is growing, yet something deep within us is being strengthened, refined, and prepared. The pain, the disappointments, the moments we wish we could erase, each of them carries a lesson, a purpose that we may not yet understand. It is easy to look back and say, if only I had made different choices, if only I had taken a different path. Regret has a way of making the past seem like a series of wasted opportunities, but what we see as wasted time is often necessary time. A delay is not a denial. A detour is not the end of the road. There are things we are meant to learn before stepping into the fullness of our purpose, and often those lessons come through the very years we wish we could erase. Think of a great building being constructed. The foundation is laid first, deep underground, where no one can see it. This process takes time, but it is essential. If a structure is built too quickly, without a strong foundation, it will collapse. The same principle applies to life. If we were given everything we desired too soon, without the wisdom, the resilience, or the experience gained from our struggles, we would not be ready to handle it. The time spent in preparation ensures that when restoration comes, we are strong enough to carry it. There are countless examples of people who believed their best years were behind them, only to discover that the struggles they endured were shaping them for something greater. Many of the world's greatest visionaries, leaders, and innovators faced years of obscurity, rejection, and failure before stepping into their calling. What if they had given up? What if they had let regret define them instead of allowing their experiences to refine them? In every season of delay or difficulty, there is an invitation to grow. When we stop seeing our past as wasted and start seeing it as preparation, everything changes. We no longer dwell on what could have been. Instead, we focus on what is still possible. We recognize that wisdom comes through experience, that character is built through endurance, and that strength is forged in adversity. The years you thought were lost were never truly lost. They were working on you, shaping you, preparing you. There is nothing in your past that cannot be redeemed. The lessons you learned, the strength you gained, the wisdom you acquired, these things do not disappear. They become the very tools that will help you step into the future you were meant for. You may feel like the seed, buried and forgotten, but your time to break through the surface is coming. You may feel like the foundation, hidden and unseen, but you are being strengthened for something greater. The struggles you endured, the time you thought was wasted, the setbacks that made you question everything, they were all part of the process. You were not being abandoned, you were being prepared. So do not grieve the years that seem lost. Instead, recognize them for what they were, a season of growth, of learning, of transformation. And when the time comes, you will see that nothing was wasted. Every moment, every experience, every lesson will come together, and you will step forward with the confidence that you were never forgotten, never left behind. You are simply being made ready. Doubt is a thief. It sneaks in quietly, wrapping itself around the mind like a whisper in the dark. It tells you that you've gone too far down the wrong road, that your past has determined your future, that the time you have lost can never be reclaimed. And the worst thing about doubt, it makes you believe it. It makes you settle into the idea that restoration is for other people, not for you, that second chances are myths, and that some mistakes can never be undone. But faith tells a different story. Faith does not see obstacles, it sees opportunities. It does not measure time in days lost, but in moments redeemed. Where doubt whispers too late, faith proclaims just in time. Faith understands that the author of time is also the master of restoration. One of the greatest tricks of fear is convincing you that restoration is impossible. You look at your past, at the years that seem wasted, and you wonder, how could I ever get that time back? But here is the truth. God is not bound by time. He is not limited by what was or what could have been. He is the one who can take a single moment and turn it into a lifetime of blessings. He is the one who can accelerate growth, multiply opportunities, and breathe new life into what seemed dead. Think of a farmer whose fields have been destroyed, perhaps by drought, perhaps by fire, He walks through the land and sees nothing but ashes and dust. If he only looks at what is in front of him, he may believe that his work was in vain. He may believe that the years he spent planting, tending and waiting were wasted. But what he does not see is that beneath the surface, the soil is still rich. It is still capable of producing a harvest, and if he sows again, if he believes again, there will be a season where the land flourishes more than it ever did before. This is how restoration works. Your past does not define the future God has for you. Every failure, every delay, every wrong turn, God has a way of weaving it all together into something extraordinary. When you live in fear, you hesitate. You stay where what you thought was an ending is often the beginning of a fresh chapter written by divine hands. Life has a way of making us believe that once something is lost, it can never return. That once we have walked too far down the wrong road, we cannot turn back. That once time has passed, it is irretrievable. But that is the language of the world, not the language of God. In the human mind, time is linear. We measure our lives in days, months, and years. We see the clock ticking forward, and we think that anything left behind is gone forever. But God does not operate within our fragile concept of time. He is not bound by our deadlines, nor is he limited by our past. What we see as an ending, he sees as an opportunity to create something new. Think about a book. When you turn a page, the words from the previous chapter do not disappear. They simply become part of the story that leads to the next. Too many of us stop reading at the chapter of failure, heartbreak, or delay. We believe that because we cannot see the next page, there isn't one. But what if I told you that your story is still being written, that what you assumed was the final word was only a comma, a pause before something greater? You may feel as though your dreams have slipped through your fingers, that the opportunities you once had are now too far gone, that your mistakes have set you back beyond repair. But you are not defined by what is behind you. You are defined by what is ahead. And ahead of you lies the promise of restoration. There is a beautiful truth woven into the fabric of creation. Nothing is ever truly wasted in God's hands. Consider the seasons of nature. A tree sheds its leaves in autumn, stands bare in the cold of winter, and yet, in due time, spring comes. What was barren begins to blossom. What looked dead begins to live again. The tree does not worry that its branches were once empty, because it knows that the cycle of renewal is inevitable. Your life is no different. What may seem like years lost are simply seasons of preparation. God has a way of using even our most painful moments to shape us, to teach us, to build something in us that we could not see at the time. You are not where you are by accident. Every step you have taken, even the missteps, have led you to this moment. And this moment is where new beginnings are made. The greatest mistake we make is assuming that restoration means returning to the way things used to be. But God does not merely bring back what was lost. He multiplies. When he restores, he does not take you back to where you were. He moves you forward into something greater. You may be longing for the past, but what if the future holds something far beyond what you imagined? You might look at your life and see broken pieces, but in the hands of a master craftsman, broken pieces do not go to waste. They become part of a new design. Some of the most beautiful works of art are created by taking shattered fragments and arranging them into something breathtaking. And so it is with your life. Every mistake, every delay, every lost opportunity is not discarded, it is repurposed. But restoration is not a passive process. It requires you to believe. It requires you to trust that no matter how much time has passed, it is never too late for a new beginning. It requires you to step forward, even when doubt tells you to stand still. It requires faith, because faith is the bridge between what was and what will be. You may not see the full picture now, but you are not meant to. The artist does not reveal the masterpiece while it is still in progress. The builder does not show the finished house while the foundation is still being laid. And God does not reveal the fullness of his plan while he is still working on you. But one day you will look back and you will see that nothing was wasted, that every closed door led to a better one, that every delay was setting you up for something greater. What you thought was an ending was never the end. It was a turning point. It was the moment before the breakthrough. It was the quiet before the restoration. Your story is not over and your best years are not behind you. They are waiting ahead, ready to unfold in ways beyond your imagination. And when they do, you will realize that nothing was truly lost, only prepared for something greater. Your past does not define you, your purpose does. This is a truth that many struggle to accept because we have been conditioned to believe that our failures, regrets, and missteps somehow determine our worth. But nothing could be further from the truth. You are not the sum of your mistakes, nor are you confined by the years you believe were wasted. Instead, you are being prepared for something greater, something beyond what you can see at this very moment. Too many people live imprisoned by their past, shackled by memories of what they could have done differently. They replay old conversations, revisit missed opportunities, and dwell on the decisions they wish they had made. But living in regret is like walking forward while constantly looking back. You cannot move with confidence when your eyes are fixed on what is behind you. The past may have shaped you, but it does not own you. Your purpose is not found in what was lost. It is found in what still lies ahead. Consider a great artist who, upon making a mistake in a painting, does not discard the canvas but instead incorporates the flaw into something beautiful. What was once seen as an error becomes part of the masterpiece. God works in much the same way. What you thought was a detour was actually a design. What you saw as a delay was a lesson in patience. The painful moments, the hardships, the seeming failures, they were never the end of your story. They were brushstrokes in a grander picture. Some of the most extraordinary figures in history experienced what seemed like wasted years. They faced rejection, failure, and moments where all hope seemed lost. Yet those very experiences prepared them for the purpose that awaited them. A farmer does not lament the time spent tilling the soil because he knows it is necessary before the harvest can come. Likewise, your struggles and delays have not been for nothing. They were preparing the soil of your life for something greater to take root. One of the greatest traps of the enemy is convincing you that your best days are behind you, that it is too late, that you have missed your chance, that the opportunity you once had will never return. But God is not bound by time. He does not operate on human schedules. What you think is lost, He can restore. What you believe is over, He can resurrect. A closed door does not mean the end.